Hi everyone, welcome back to my YouTube channel. I hope you all have a thrilling time listening to today's ghost stories. And once again, we'll continue with the spooky stories that you, the audience, have sent in for me, Sora, to share with everyone. If any of you also have ghost stories you'd like me to tell, you can send them to my Gmail or the Zalo number showing on the screen. If you enjoy the video, please give me a like and a subscribe, and don't forget to click the bell so you won't miss any new uploads. Alright, I won't waste your time anymore. Let's dive right into today's story. Today, we'll get into the story sent by Ngok from Anjang. Ngok once shared with us a story about the murder case of Ms. Toy Lai, whose body was found in a sugarcane field long ago, a story told by her grandmother. That was something that happened a very long time ago, back in her grandma's village. But today's story is actually about something that happened within Ngok's own family. She told us a bit about both sides of her family. Her father's side and her mother's side lived in the same province but in different districts. So, if she wanted to visit her grandparents on either side, she had to ride a little distance. Back then, her father worked on a rice harvester, and her mother followed the machine to catch mice in the fields. That's how they met, fell in love, got married, and later had Ngok. At that time, when her parents decided to be together, both families strongly opposed it, especially her father's side. You see, her father's family was wealthy, while her mother's side was poor. So her aunts, her father's sisters, tried to stop him from marrying her mother. They told him, "Your bride's family is too poor. Find someone else." But because her father truly loved her mother, he ignored them and decided to move in with her mother's family instead. On her mother's side, her grandma had 7 siblings, and her grandma was the 3rd child. One year, there was a death anniversary ceremony for their ancestors. That day, Ngok didn't attend, but she was told about what happened. At the gathering, there were many relatives, including the elder brother of her grandfather, and also Uncle Sao, who was her grandfather's younger brother. They were, of course, family, but during the feast they drank too much alcohol. As the drinks flowed, words were exchanged, and before long they started a heated argument. No one in the family could stop them. The fight got more and more intense, until one of them, full of anger, stormed back home, grabbed a large knife and came charging back to confront his own brother. His intestines were hanging out, everyone. When they rushed him to the doctor, well, this happened about 10 years ago, and back then medical care wasn't as advanced as it is now. So when they brought him to the hospital, the doctors only did some basic treatment. They said the wound was too deep, he had already lost too much blood, and told the family to take him home. When they turned him over, they realized the wound had already become badly infected. No one knew exactly how the stabbing happened, but somehow his intestines had been cut and even separated from his body. People said part of his intestines had completely fallen out. In the end, Uncle Sao couldn't survive. He passed away. Meanwhile, Uncle Hai was arrested and sent to prison. The night before Uncle Sao died, his family laid him at home. He was still breathing faintly, but everyone knew he didn't have much time left. That night, the relatives took turns watching over him. In the neighborhood, actually it was just a small hamlet of about 7 houses, all related family members. There were some big old trees, a tall coconut tree and 2 large shade trees at the front. Nobody knew how long they had been growing there. They looked like ancient trees. That night, while everyone was gathered inside, they suddenly began hearing noises from above the branches, like someone was jumping from branch to branch. And along with that, they heard eerie chuckling, soft, but unsettling. At first, everyone thought it was strange because when they looked outside, there was no one there. But the sounds continued. Footsteps, branches shaking, and then a voice echoed down from the trees, right above Uncle Sao's house. It was the voice of a man. And that voice said clearly, "Last night that man stabbed this man. Tonight I'll stab him again so he'll die. You'd better prepare a coffin. He's going to die tomorrow." Everyone froze. They looked out again but still saw no one, only the voice echoing cold and sharp through the night. You can imagine the scene. Inside, Uncle Sao was lying weak and pale, while above, the chilling voice kept speaking. At that moment, the eldest man in the family, likely the elder brother of their grandfather, stepped outside. He walked straight to the front yard and stood under the tall tree, staring up into the branches. And then, the voice. Oh my God. He looked up and saw a figure, a person, but this person only had one leg. Everyone, it kept jumping from one tree branch to another, swinging around just like a monkey. It was terrifying. The foster brother in the family witnessed it, and sure enough, the very next day Uncle Sal passed away quietly. When he died, it was peaceful. He didn't scream or show pain, he simply took his last breath. After that, another strange thing happened. Back in those days, in the village, only the wealthier families could afford a black and white television. Everyone else had none. So almost every night, kids and young people from the hamlet would gather at that one house to watch TV together. That house was about 300 meters away from Grandma's house. But on this particular night, strangely, no one went to watch except for your Aunt Ute. She went alone. At first, nothing happened, but on her way back, she had to pass by the same big old tree where the eerie sounds had been heard before. Around that tree were thick bushes and roots. It was always dark and gloomy there. As she walked by, she suddenly heard footsteps behind her. Thud, thud, like someone following her. At first, she thought it was just a child running along the road, but after a while she realized it wasn't walking anymore. The sound was like something jumping. When she quickly turned around, oh God, she saw it. That same figure with only one leg leapt swiftly and landed on the branches of the big tree. Then it perched there, staring. Terrified, Aunt Ute screamed and cried uncontrollably, so loud that the whole village heard her. And remember, she was already married at that time, yet she cried like a little child. From that night on, she no longer dared to go watch TV at that neighbor's house. Returning to Uncle Sal's story, after his death, his wife, Aunt Sal, was so heartbroken that she left the village altogether. She abandoned the house and never came back to live there again. Later on, your parents asked Aunt Sal for permission to move into that old house. At the time, your parents were still young. They hadn't built their own home yet, so they thought it would be fine to stay there. While your family lived in the house, nothing strange ever happened. But whenever your father brought his friends over to sleep there, the very next morning those friends would leave immediately, refusing to stay again. Why? Because every single one of them said the same thing. At night, they were pinned down in their sleep, and they all saw the figure of a man. His guts were spilling out of his stomach. Each night, anyone who was just a guest in that house would see him crawl onto them in their dreams, with his intestines dangling. Absolutely terrifying. Strangely, your family themselves never experienced this haunting, only outsiders who tried to sleep there. After that, your mother didn't mention much more about the one-legged ghost or the spirit of Uncle Sal with his intestines exposed. Even when you later grew up living in that same house, nothing ever happened to you. But according to your story, whenever strangers tried to spend the night in the house, that spirit wouldn't allow it. He would drive them away. And apart from the ghost of Uncle Sal, there were also those one-legged spirits that lingered on the 2 coconut trees and the giant shade tree in front of the house. When you were about 16, your boyfriend from Saigon came to visit. At that time, the 2 coconut trees and the big shade tree were still standing at the front of the house. One night, your boyfriend and your younger brother went out to the nearby neighborhood to play computer games at a neighbor's house. On the way there, nothing unusual happened. But on the way back, your boyfriend walked home alone, and that's when it happened. He saw a girl on the road wearing a bright red dress. At first, he thought she was just an ordinary woman walking by. But after a while, as he walked behind her, she suddenly appeared right in front of him. Then out of nowhere, she floated straight up into the branches of the big tree. Strangely, even after witnessing that, your boyfriend didn't panic. He wasn't scared at all. He simply walked straight home and only later told everyone what he had seen. That was the story from when you were 16 years old. But then, by the time you were 18, something else happened. You had another encounter. There was another incident. At that time, you and your boyfriend were both working in Vinh Long. One day you received news that your grandmother was about to pass away, so the two of you quickly arranged to return home to see her one last time. You arrived back at the village close to 1 a.m. that night. When you reached the house, you let your boyfriend sleep in your room while you went to your mother's room to sleep with her. That night, everything seemed normal. But the next morning, your boyfriend suddenly came out and asked the family, "Uncle, is it true that in this house there was once a young woman with short hair who was disabled, used a wheelchair, and drowned in the canal behind the house?" Everyone was shocked. He had never been to your home before. He was just a stranger visiting for the very first time. How could he possibly know such a family story? Your parents exchanged confused looks. After a pause, your mother answered, "Yes, that's true. But she was only a distant relative, not someone very close in the family." Hearing this, your boyfriend explained, "The night we arrived, we were both tired from traveling, so when I lay down in the room, I immediately fell asleep. In my dream, I saw a young girl, maybe only in her teens. She had short hair. She came to me, tugged at me, insisting that I follow her. She wanted to show me how she died. In the dream, the girl led him to the side of Aunt Bay's house. Back then, there was a small canal there. It wasn't very deep. An average person standing inside would have water only up to their chest. But she explained that, because she was so young and disabled, bound to a wheelchair, when she rolled herself out there, she suddenly slipped into the water. She couldn't swim up to the surface in time. Struggling and exhausted, she sank deeper and deeper until she drowned." In his dream, the girl continued her story. She said that when she drowned in the canal, Uncle Num was the one who discovered her and pulled her out. At that moment, she wasn't completely gone yet. She had stopped breathing, but her heart was still faintly beating and her body was still warm. She explained, "If only at that time they had taken me to the clinic right away, or if they had known proper first aid, I might not have died." But Uncle Num, not knowing what to do, didn't try to drain the water from her lungs. Instead, he blew air straight into her mouth. That only forced the water deeper into her lungs, which became one of the reasons she truly died. She told your boyfriend that she only wanted him to know the truth about her death, and that her spirit was still present in that house. Before vanishing, she even said, "I love the pig I raised so much. Please take care of it for me." Then she disappeared. The next morning, your boyfriend asked your parents about this, and they were stunned. How could an outsider, someone who had only just visited for the first time, know such private details of the family's past? It clearly wasn't coincidence. But after only a few months, your relationship with him ended. Later, when you turned 20, you got married. Life with your husband was happy. During your pregnancy, nothing unusual happened. But after you gave birth to your child, there was one strange night. Your husband came with you to visit your mother's house. That night, the two of you slept together in your old room. While he slept, he suddenly saw the face of a woman pressing closer and closer to the bed. Her face grew nearer until it was right next to his own. He could see her features very clearly. The face was large and distinct. He watched for about 15 seconds as the face hovered there, then slowly pulled back and disappeared behind the refrigerator. The next morning, he told your mother about what he had seen. Your mother calmly explained, "That must have been your grandmother's spirit. She just wanted to see her grandchild, nothing else." She added that perhaps the reason was because your husband was Catholic. When he visited, he didn't light incense for your grandmother, only bowed his head. Maybe your grandmother appeared to remind him. That afternoon, their PE classes were scheduled during periods 4 and 5, from about 3:45 p.m. to 5:10 p.m. After a while, the group of friends decided to sneak up to the second floor to catch some fresh air. Technically, students weren't allowed up there. Teachers forbade it because there were no active classrooms on those floors. But curiosity won. 9 of them went up together, leaning on the railings, chatting, and letting the wind blow through. Pretty soon, though, standing around got boring. Someone suggested, "Hey, let's play hide and seek." The idea was exciting because the long, empty corridors were perfect for hiding. The base pole they used for the seeker was located on the second floor. They played a few rounds, laughing and chasing each other through the eerie, deserted halls. By the time it was already 5:10 p.m., the school day was supposed to end. They decided to play just one last round before going home. 7 kids ran off to hide, while 2 stayed at the base to count before seeking. You, along with another girl, dashed straight up to the 3rd floor. You slipped inside an empty classroom, pulled the door shut, and crouched quietly inside. Through the gap in the doorway, you saw one of your friends passing by, searching for the hidden players. You held your breath, afraid of being spotted. When he finally wandered off, you and your friend pushed the door open and bolted, hoping to sneak back down. But bad luck. He spotted you both the moment you stepped into the hallway. Panicking, you and your friend sprinted straight toward the restrooms at the end of the 3rd floor hallway. You darted into the first stall. Your friend ducked into the second. Later, you admitted that you hadn't wanted to hide in there at all. It was pure instinct, the thrill of the game pushing you forward. Because in truth, the 3rd floor bathrooms were terrifying. No students had ever really used them. Ever since the building had been finished, they'd just sat abandoned. The air inside was icy cold. The ceiling tiles were stained black, the walls damp with mold. The mirror above the sinks was cracked in several jagged lines like a shattered face frozen mid-scream. Worst of all, when you turned on the faucet, just to make it seem like you were casually standing there, the water that gushed out wasn't clear. It was thick, murky, and yellow, like water drawn straight from a muddy swamp. You froze, staring at it. In that moment, an awful chill ran down your spine. At first, you brushed it off. You thought, maybe the pipes are just rusty. Nobody's used this restroom for ages. So you stayed hidden inside, waiting. Before long, your classmate who was seeking came into the bathroom. He spotted you immediately. Startled, you burst out laughing, your voice echoing down the entire 3rd floor corridor. Even as he dragged you out, you couldn't stop giggling. Your friend in the next stall stayed hidden for a while longer, only coming out after everything was over. The game wrapped up soon after as dusk was falling. Everyone went home, tired but cheerful after an afternoon of fun. That night, though, things changed. You got home, ate dinner, showered, and lay in bed scrolling on your phone. Around 11:50 p.m., you finally switched it off and closed your eyes. Not long after drifting off, you suddenly jolted awake. A tall, dark figure stood silently at the foot of your bed. Terror washed over you. You screamed, loud, desperate, but no one in the house seemed to hear. Then, the figure spoke. In a low, chilling voice, it said, "Why did you scream so loudly while playing yesterday? Your whole body froze stiff. You couldn't move at all. It was as if invisible hands were pinning you down." Then you felt it. The cold grip of that shadowy figure wrapping around your wrist. It pulled you upright, forcing you to sit up in bed. In panic, you began to chant prayers under your breath. Slowly, the paralyzing weight lifted. Your body loosened. Sweat drenched you from head to toe. Your pajamas clung to your skin, soaked through as if you'd just stepped out of the shower. Shaking, you turned on some music to calm your nerves and kept it playing until dawn. At 12:05 a.m., you dared glance at your phone. Only 15 minutes had passed. The next morning, you dragged yourself to school, exhausted and late for class. You recounted what had happened to your friends, the same group that had played hide-and-seek with you the day before. They teased you nervously. Maybe the spirits were annoyed because you screamed too much. They came back to teach you a lesson. But then, your friend, the one who had hidden with you in the bathroom stall, spoke up. At 2 a.m., she said, she had also seen a shadow standing in the corner of her room. That same night, the nightmare continued. You lay down to sleep, but at midnight, your body suddenly grew unbearably heavy, like something invisible was pressing down on your chest. You were still conscious. You could hear voices right beside your ear, shouting, scolding, almost screaming. The words were unclear, distorted, as if in another language. But the rage in that voice was unmistakable. Terrified, you silently recited prayers. Gradually, the crushing weight lifted, and you gasped for air. Mustering courage, you grabbed your blanket and moved into your mother's room to sleep beside her. Yet even there you weren't safe. As you tried to rest, you saw it again, the dark figure. It loomed at the foot of your bed, standing completely still, its presence thick and suffocating. You panicked and shook your mother awake, begging her to swap places so you could lie inside, closer to the wall. You thought it would feel safer, but the figure followed, still standing right there, closer than before. Then came the most chilling moment. You turned toward your mother for comfort, only to see her suddenly sit up. Her voice, strange and warped, said, "Did you really think I was your mother?" Your blood froze. Your body began to convulse, jerking uncontrollably as terror overtook you. And then, you woke. Your real mother was shaking you, worried. "What's wrong, child? What happened?" You realized you were still lying on the outside, while your mother was sleeping inside exactly as before. It had only been a nightmare, but so vivid, so real, you could still feel the fear clawing at your chest. Too shaken to sleep again, you stayed awake until dawn. The next morning, you and your mother visited a temple. The monk there listened quietly, then explained, "You disturbed the spirits first. That's why they followed you." He said your laughter, your screams inside the haunted restroom had angered the unseen. They retaliated by tormenting you in your sleep. To help, the monk gave you a protective talisman. From that day forward, the haunting stopped. Ever since the monk gave you the protective talisman, you've always kept it with you. He also taught you a simple offering ritual, so that the spirits would no longer disturb you. Fortunately, you no longer had to attend PE classes at that haunted school. Even so, you never dared to open or look directly at the talisman. It remained sealed, untouched, and sacred. From this experience, you realized something important. From now on, you must carry yourself with more grace and respect, rather than laughing loudly and carelessly. Perhaps your playful shouts had provoked the spirits first, which was why they lashed back so fiercely. And truly, that's the lesson here. Everywhere we go, whether among the living or the dead, respect matters. Spirits don't seek to torment without reason. Just as we value peace, so do they. So your story carries a deeper meaning, one worth sharing with others. And with that, today's tale comes to an end. If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel. And if you have thoughts about what happened, feel free to leave a comment below so everyone can read and discuss. Stay tuned for the next chilling episode. Bye-bye, everyone.